once season 3 got picked up, and it felt like it was a season where, they felt that, they're hitting their paths for sure. The Note, I felt, was a very, very good episode. Definitely, I'd say one of my favorites to start off season 3. The main storyline with The Note was George getting a massage from a man and worrying that it turned him on and that he's attracted to men. But it just concerns him. It drives him nuts. This episode also, of course, was one of the first times they had to deal with, the censoring people and whatnot. As, of course, they can only say, certain words on camera so many times without, getting in trouble, basically. But we'll get into all to that. There is a lot to talk about when it comes to The Note. Several storylines. All the storylines, for the most part, except for Kramer's, revolved around getting a massage. So the episode starts off with Jerry getting a massage from one woman I guess he's been going to for a while. They're just making casual chit chat, and I think they start talking about that recent child abduction or whatnot, or kidnapping that happened in Pennsylvania, I guess. And I guess for what I got across from it, the comments Jerry made about it, and then immediately starts asking about the woman, about her son, if he's home or something like that. I get why the woman got freaked out by it, because it sounded like Jerry was I don't know, kind of gave her the creeps about the whole scenario and thinking about what would that happen to her child, thinking Jerry had a sick mind or something like that. But Jerry obviously did not mean what he meant. But obviously the woman was trying to avoid any sort of way of Jerry ever coming back anytime soon, and to get another massage, even though he needed it at times throughout the episode. But she obviously thought Jerry was some type of a psycho or whatnot. But that was the main storyline with Jerry. But also, the reason why this is called The Note is because Elaine and George wanted to get a massage, and Jerry said that that the massage can be covered by insurance if you have a note from a doctor, which could be any doctor. So Jerry kept saying he can get a note from his dentist friend Roy. And of course he said he would get one for George, to get one for Elaine. They went to get the note, which was, of course, right after George had the massage. Let's first get to the main thing. So George and Elaine go to, get their massages. They're told who they're going to get. I think Elaine was going to be getting the same woman that worked on Jerry. And George told he's getting Raymond. And he's like, excuse me, what? Raymond's? He didn't want to get a massage from a man. Elaine didn't want to get a massage from the man either, because she didn't want to be turned on. She was fine getting a massage by a woman. And of course Raymond comes out, and he's just a very overly happy man, which obviously makes this a lot more awkward for George than it is. And of course he's trying to make casual conversation with George, but George just feels very uncomfortable throughout the whole thing. And then of course, my favorite part, of course, of this episode, my favorite moment, I wouldn't say, one of my favorite parts of the episode is whenever he wants to massage George's thighs or whatnot, right around there. But he yanks back at George's pants. George just goes, which I thought at first was the moment where he got worried he got turned on. That's where he more so got startled. But I guess on his chart, George mentioned something about that he wanted his hamstring massaged. And he was like, nah, don't worry about it. He goes, nah, I'll take care of the hamstring. And that's where George got scared, if you know what I mean. Because he's asked, Raymond's asking him, so what do you do? I don't know. Well, you don't know. Hamstring. Work. He asked him, and George was saying random things, obviously, just completely uncomfortable with the whole thing. And then he goes back to Jerry's apartment, and And he walks in there, and he mentions how a man had given him a massage. He was mentioning it, and of course he goes into the details. He takes my pants off, and Jerry's like, "He took your pants off," like making it awkward, much more awkward than it is, much more awkward than it is. So he goes to work on the hamstring, and yeah, so I think it moved. What do you mean you think it moved? It moved! I think it moved! And then George freaked out because he thought that he obviously got turned on by it. And Jerry's like, well, maybe it was just a shift. Maybe it needed some more air or something like that. And then again, George's like, no, this wasn't a shift. It was a move. Which Larry David mentioned in the Inside Look that, that never actually happened to him. But just the idea of, a guy like, a paranoid guy like George having worries like that would be pretty funny, and it was. George freaking out about it, and then Jerry Clinton, the gym teacher, when told him it's not depending on by shifting or something. It's a result of contact or something like that. It is to know if it turned him on or not. But of course, George throughout the rest of the episode was sitting there just seeing photos of men and on the wall, whenever they went to Roy's office to get the note, and Jerry's Jerry's saying if you don't feel comfortable doing this, it's okay. George is he ain't uncomfortable. You're making him feel uncomfortable. But there was I forgot which athlete it was that was on a poster as well. George is looking at him oh no, do I think more of him than just a talented guy or what? But anyways, Jerry gets a note for him, George, and he gets one for Elaine too. But I think, correct me if I'm wrong, this will happen. But I think what happened was, Roy, of course, then gets being invested for insurance fraud, and I think the reason why, not because he wrote the notes, but I think it's because Elaine had already gotten a note from her gynecologist. So obviously, if it's two people, putting in notes, doctor notes for them, then it may cause some concerns, I guess. I think that's the reason why that all happened. So obviously, I think in the end, Roy ended up getting just 6 months probation or something like that. I think that's all the punishment he got. But of course, George is still just freaked out, worried that this massage just turned him on and whatnot. Now, the other story, I thought the story for Kramer in this episode was Kramer was at Dinky Donuts, and he said he saw Joe DiMaggio. Of course, the ball player for the Yankees, and nobody believed him. And nobody believed that he'd be at Dinky Donuts dunking. And Kramer, of course, would be saying, I was trying to get his attention. I was able to go making his little Kramer noises, which there's actually a documentary on one of the discs for season 3. Go more in depth about Kramer, where he mentions how him making those random noises or whatnot, just to really emphasize the point of the scene or whatnot, was in there. I want to throw that in there. But at the end of the episode, whenever of course they're talking about Roy again, just 6 months probation, they see Joe DiMaggio at Monk's, and now they believe Kramer. And of course, Kramer's just going trying to get his attention, which didn't really work, of course. And of course, George goes, now that's a handsome man there. He finally, is able to compliment a man without feeling awkward. Barry looks at him, which he was just oh, great. So that's really the episode. But yeah, it's just, I think it moved. But of course, the reference it's referring to was only referenced a few times. It was it there. It was also it in the stand-in when Elaine was went on a date with Phil Totola, and he took it out while in the car. But again, it was just this awkward moment in the Inside Look where Larry David saying how you're talking to the sensitivity people, the censoring people about I can give you one of this, or I can give you 3 of these, I can give you a couple of this and whatnot, and how awkward it is. But that was the first experience with that. This also was the first episode with Kramer actually going to Monk's with everyone else, as in the first season, the first 2 seasons, again, Kramer was more so like, just resorted to his apartment. He never really went out. He didn't work. He didn't go out or anything. But I think, after a while, they realized they had to, have him step out of the apartment and do more outside the apartment to make his character even, of course, bigger than it was. Of course, eventually, some point in this season, when Kramer started doing his slide-in entrance, he started getting like a big applause every time he came in, which went on for a few episodes. But then eventually, I think they did tell the audience, you gotta kind of maybe cut that out because it kind of throws off the pace of the show, and every precious second counts basically, since they technically only have a exact limited amount of time. Of course, the other noteworthy thing about this episode is the theme song was a little bit different. There was a little bit of vocal backup singers, small little lyrics from other women singers and whatnot, a couple little sound effects A, B, or just something to spice up the music. Which Jerry actually talked to the music guy, Jonathan Wolff, about his name was, about spicing up a little bit. And then Jerry liked what he had to present. Larry David liked, so they edited the music, and they filmed the first couple episodes of season 3, and all of them were filmed with that music. But then the note aired, and NBC and Castle Rock was kind of taken by surprise because they didn't know. Nobody besides Jonathan Wolff, Jerry Seinfeld, and Larry David knew about this change to the music. They never really asked what they thought. And let's say nobody else was really a fan of it, so they had to go back and, for the next few episodes where they had already filmed, before those aired, take all that out. So the note was the only episode where that music took place. That's really it. I mean, there was a lot to say about it. Again, definitely the stories were great in this episode. Again, George getting freaked out by that massage from Raymond was just priceless. Again, Raymond was the perfect, I felt, the character of Raymond was just so perfect to make it even more funnier, because it was someone who seemed overjoyed, more than happy to give George a massage, yet George just felt so awkward, and he's worried a slight shift, it had to roll over or something like that, he was worried that it was going to, make him attracted to men, basically. Not that there's anything wrong with that, of course, as we will hear, of course, in a later episode. And yep, that's the note, guys. That's my recap and review of The Note, the first episode of season 3 of Seinfeld. Next, I believe, is The Truth. I believe it is. Next is The Truth episode. Not a bad episode either, but definitely not one of my top favorites. Not as good as The Note, but it was not too bad of an episode. So we'll talk about The Truth next. So guys, what are your thoughts on The Note? Please leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. And be sure as always to slap a like on the video. Subscribe for more content to my channel. Follow me on Twitter at DemandAirBoy93. So guys, I'll check it out. I'll see you all later. Peace out, everybody.